Hi, beautiful ladies. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Alana Palm, Christian trauma release and mind renewal specialist, and I help Christian women overcome overwhelm, fear, frustration, and trauma from a Christ-centered perspective. If this interests you, please continue watching. So this morning, we are going to be talking about a really awesome topic that came up this week, actually with one of my clients. So today's topic is the best way to mend your most difficult relationships. So, the problem with trying to mend relationships is that we're often told, try harder, work at it, and get the other person to see your perspective. But that often doesn't work. And today I'm going to help you see a powerful way to mend relationships that will help you not have to try or do or work hard or strive so much, but will give you more joy and peace in the process. So I'm sure this will be helpful for you if you've had any difficult relationship in your life that you've wanted to heal. Maybe you do at the moment. Maybe you have wondered, how can I actually have really great relationships when the relationships are difficult at times? How can I have really great relationships and not be caught up in that cycle of pain and hurt? Because that happens, right? When we love people, we can get hurt. There's a risk there. Maybe you have inner resistance that you want to heal, but you just don't know how. You want to release that resistance that's going on inside you. Maybe you have a push-pull kind of thing inside, and you think, oh, I'm so tired of being in decision confusion or questioning myself or wondering why I push people away and then pull them back in, and why I make agreements with myself. Like if somebody doesn't show up a certain way, then I'm going to close off, right? If you have wanted these things, this is going to be an awesome life for you. You probably, I'm going to guess, have struggled to let go and let God at times. Because if you're anything like me, I like to be the God of my own life at times. And I sometimes think I can do it better than God. So I don't go to him in prayer first. I just kind of make up my mind. And lately I've really been pulling back and going, okay, God, what do you want? And how does this serve me long term? Even my thoughts, like, is this a thought you want me to have? Is this a feeling that you want me to have? And if so, where's it coming from? Do I need to dig into it a bit more? Or is this just coming from a faulty thought that I can change quickly? The other day I was on the phone with one of my clients, and she was struggling because she has this relationship in her life that is so important to her, and she just wants to heal it. But it's been broken for a long time. And we went through, she's like, these are the things I want to say. How do I say it? So we talked through different ways of communicating what was going on for her. And we went beneath the surface in her to find out what was going on, because having a conversation on the outside when your come from on the inside isn't clean is going to present a problem, especially if the person has historically seen you show up a certain way and they know what to expect with you. There's a disconnect there. So it only takes one person to change the dynamic of a relationship. So if that's you and you want to change a relationship, then what do you have to do to be able to change it? And that's where we usually get into this place of trying really hard and working hard and striving and trying to get the other person to see our perspective. And this isn't what works, because people don't respond to pressure. So a lot of people get repelled by pressure. They're like, if you're putting pressure on me, I'm automatically going to say no just because I don't want you to put pressure on me. So if we go to somebody and we're expecting something from them, we're used to getting what we want, because many of you are successful, you're hard workers, you do well in life, and you're used to getting what you want. But when it comes to another person in relationship, that's not always the way it goes, right? Often it's not the way it goes. If any of you are married, if any of you have kids, it doesn't always work out. So then in the midst of it not working out, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments, what do you do when a relationship is really difficult? Not abusive, but there's just a rift. It's difficult. Like the two people can't see eye to eye. So you have one opinion, somebody else has another opinion. what do you do in the process? How do you remedy that, or do you remedy that? Do you just push it away? I'd love to know in the comments for you. Like my client and like me at many times, right? We want these relationships to heal so badly that we're almost desperate, especially if it's someone we care about so deeply. And the truth is, God knows what you want, right? He knows the best way for this to work out. He knows the beginning from the end, and he knows how this relationship is supposed to play out. But we don't. So then what do, right? We want it our way. Well, maybe our way isn't God's best way, right? We think we want it a certain way, but what does God want for us? Maybe in the time of waiting for that relationship to be repaired, he's actually calling you to be in a more reflective space. Maybe he's calling you to grow personally during that time. I've had relationships where I didn't talk to the person for years, and then all of a sudden I was in a healthier place, they were in a healthier place, and we were able to have a good conversation about it and actually repair the relationship. But it took time, it took growth on both sides. And I've also been in the position where I've tried to pressure things to work out sooner than they were supposed to, because that time and space was not allowed. So through everything I've done in my life and what I teach in the Set Free Academy, we have a whole relationships module, is how to let go of a few things when it comes to these relationships that you want repaired. So one of them is, how do we get out of expecting it to turn out a certain way, which is usually the way we want? How do we stop just hoping in not a like God's hope sense, but in a like needy, like I just need this to work out, like I'm just desperate for it to work out, and I want it to work out this way. This is the only way it's going to work for me. How do we get out of that way of thinking? Also, how do we get out of giving to other people just to get something in return? So if any of you have struggled with codependence like I have, I would give to people, I would love them, but only if they loved me a certain way. So they needed to show up for me in a way that was pleasing to me, or I'd want to take my love away from them. So it wasn't flowing freely. It was all dependent on how they reacted. And so I was giving my love to get something in return. It wasn't just free and clear. And how do we also stop trying to show up perfectly or show up a certain way to get a certain response in a certain time frame? So again, we go back to, I want it this way. This is the way I want it to look. Well, the other person's a different individual. So how do they want it to look? And again, we're not talking about abusive situations. We don't want to sign up for abuse, right? Part of honoring somebody in relationship is not allowing them to sin against you without accountability. So we need to make sure that we are holding people accountable to that higher standard that God has for them, which is not abusing people. We can love them through prayer, but I wouldn't say, let's go mend that relationship unless it's from a place of you personally mending what's going on inside you. But it doesn't mean you have to come back together with somebody, right? Mending a relationship isn't, I need to be close with them. They need to be in my inner circle. I'm going to message them every day and talk to them all the time and invite them over. And some relationships are not ready for that, even when you do mend it. So time, time is a big thing, right? It's God's time frame, not our time frame. Also, how do we stop almost like silently or openly pleading with someone for them to show up better or some way that we want them to so that we feel better? So how do we stop going, if you show up a certain way, I will feel good. So therefore you need to be that way so that I don't end up feeling sad, bad, angry. That's giving a lot of power away to the other person, which is not what you want to do. Because again, that comes back to codependence, right? We're dependent on them showing up a certain way so that we feel good. So what it all comes down to is that we think we have this control. We have this sense of control, right? If we can't control them, we'll control us, or we'll take ourselves away from them. So there's something that we've taught in the Set Free Academy called the 3 R's: resistance, resentment, and revenge. And what happens is when somebody's not showing up the way we want, we get into resistance with them. There's this inner push-pull resistance. Like if they're showing up the way I want, I'll be pulled in towards them. But or I'll pull them in toward me. If they're not showing up the way I want, I'll push them away or I'll run away, right? Instead of actually just being present and rooted regardless of how it's happening, right? And again, please like hear my disclaimer about abuse. We're not standing there in the face of abuse and taking it. But if this is just like a normal relationship, right, that is finding itself difficult at that moment, right, we need to understand that that control that we want to have, it's going to lead us into this place of resistance, resentment, and revenge. So resistance is the push pull. I will love you if you turn out, turn up for me a certain way. I will give, but I'm going to get something in return. So it's always this like control, push pull sort of feeling inside. Okay. Then you have resentment. And this is what you get into when you don't get what you want. So the person's not giving you what you want, and we get resentful of that, right? We want what we want. They might not be capable of giving it. So the next one is revenge. And this is where we think of revenge as like, we're going to do something awful to them. Revenge can honestly be being passive aggressive. It could be not giving your emotions to them anymore, not giving anything to them because they're not giving back to you, right? It could be just thinking really awful thoughts in your head about them, right? I'm mad at you. You did this to me. It's not right. And I'm just going to stand here. Basically, you're taking your toy and you're going home to play. It's like, I'm leaving this sandbox. Bye. And we do this all the time. And I think one of the biggest things for me, and I think for a lot of you too, is awareness. To understand why we're doing it, like what's going on, what's actually showing up in us, why, and sorting through it, which is a lot of the work we do in the Set Free Academy. But for you, what is it that you have coming up in you? Is it that codependency? Is it that need for validation? Is it that you want to be good enough and they're not showing you you're good enough, or you have a need and they're not meeting it? So we get to let go of this control because often it's our security blanket, and control is based in fear. The truth is we have a certain level of control God has given us, but we do not have the type of control that God has over everything. And when we try to control things, it's also striving and working and doing, and it's not from a place of rest and peace in Him. So we have to realize that the only person we can change in a relationship is us, right? We can't change another person. Let's do this. If you've tried to change another person to make things better for you, put a 1 in the comments. If you have allowed another person's emotions or how they show up to make you feel a certain way, put a 2 in the comments. So if both, put a 12. 1 and a 2 together. So these are big things because this is giving your power away. This is where you don't have control over yourself. You don't have what's called an internal locus of control, which is what you want. You want to pull back and actually be able to control yourself, right? To access the power of the Holy Spirit in you and practice what's called peaceful control. And peaceful control is where you give it to God. You're not actually holding on so tightly to what you want. You're just lifting it up to God and going, I trust your plan. So that's the first step. The other thing is, and I talk about this a lot in the rest module in the Academy, when we want to shift a relationship and we know that we're the only ones we can change, then we get to embrace Christ and what's available to us through the power of the Holy Spirit in us, which I don't think we access enough, if we're honest. I mean, we have the greatest power in the universe inside us, but how often do we tap into that? How often do we go our own way and think our own thoughts? And how often do we go, well, the Holy Spirit lives in me, so what does the Holy Spirit think? I don't think we do it enough, honestly. And so resting. So this is the big word, is resting. How do you rest in the Holy Spirit and actually have God give you the peace and the love, like filling you to the overflow with love, with your worth, instead of looking to the other person for the love and for the validation, looking to God first for those things and resting in that, being rooted and grounded in that. And then when you do go to the other person, you are in this space of peace. You're not expecting anything. You're not trying to control the situation. You're not giving so you get something. You're not allowing them to make you feel a certain way, because the whole time you're just rooted in the Holy Spirit. So I'm curious from you, have you been in a position where you have not fully accessed the Holy Spirit in you? So if you haven't, just put a 3 in the comments. If you have not accessed the Holy Spirit in you enough, maybe once in a while, but not enough, put a 3 in the comments so I can see. So knowing what the problem is allows us to find a solution. It's hard to find a solution when we don't know the problem. So when we want to access the Holy Spirit in us, we get to look at ourselves and say, why are we trying to control this situation? How does that make me feel safe? How is this allowing me to, kind of enact revenge because I'm in resistance and resentment toward the person? So am I doing something that's kind of revenge, right? Like under that umbrella of revenge, vengeful, and not in a malicious way, but it's a more of a protective thing. We don't want to get hurt. But what if we couldn't get hurt? Besides somebody, dying, right? Besides like actually grieving the death of somebody or the end of a relationship, but like what if in relationship we didn't give our power away to the other person to make us feel a certain way? What if we allowed them to be them and we were just us? And we weren't dependent on their moods or their feelings about us or what they gave or didn't give in order for us to feel good, because we're so filled with the overflow. Like we're filled with God's love, and everything in us is just overflowing onto everyone around us. So it's literally loving people from the overflow, which means if God's love is constantly being poured into you and you're giving from the overflow, do you actually need anything from that other person? No, because you've got everything you need. Everything on top of that is a bonus. So we also, when we're resting in the Holy Spirit, we also know our worth and value. So, we stand on our identity in Him. We don't allow someone else to gaslight us, abuse us, treat us poorly, because we're like, well, I'm a child of God. I'm a daughter of the King. I am royalty. Why would I allow myself to be treated this way? Right? So resting in Him in that sense is also going to give you that. It gives you the ability to enact boundaries. It gives you stronger confidence and self-esteem. If this resonated with you and you are struggling in relationships and you really want to learn how to rest more in God, there is, an available program for you in the Set Free Academy potentially. Obviously, we don't work with everybody who we get on a call with because we want to make sure it's a good fit. There are certain criteria that we look for to make sure that you're in the right place for this type of work, because it's deep and profound work. And there are certain things that kind of need to be in place for us to be ready for that. So if you are thinking that's something you'd like, then obviously you can book. I will put the link if you want to book a call. So if you think this is something that you might want to move forward with, we have lots of different options on how you can, well, we have a few different options on how you can come into the program. So there might be an option that works for you if this is what you want and if it's a good fit. So that's available. And yeah, I think that's it for today. I just thank you so much, ladies, for being with me this morning. If any questions come up and you want to maybe have an answer to them, just tag me in your comment and I'll hopefully be able to get a notification and get back to it. But that's it for today. I pray that if you have a relationship in your life that's struggling, that you would just bring yourself back to that place of, how am I trying to control it? How am I giving my power away to this person? How can I tap into the Holy Spirit to really allow Him to be my vindicator, allow Him to guide my steps, allow Him to fill me with love so that I'm literally pouring it out on others and I don't need their love to make me feel full. These are all the things that I did for myself and my clients obviously are experiencing the same thing. that has worked better than anything, that has given me peace in my relationships in a way that nothing else has. So I know it works. I also know it can be a journey to get from where we are now to where we want to be with that. So if you want some support, let me know. Thanks, ladies, for being here. Everyone else, have a wonderful day as well. Thank you for watching. If you connected with this content and it helped you in some way, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Also, check the description below for special gifts just for you. See you in the next video.